friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Alocasia Dragon Scale and the Silver Dragon, which, to be honest, I treat them exactly the same way, so I didn't think it made sense to make two videos about them, and I'm pretty sure they're very, very closely related, so we're gonna talk about them as if they were one. If you don't know me already, my name is Emma and I make houseplanting content all over the internet, so if you want to follow along with my houseplanting journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos, and subscribe to my channel. So both Alocasia Dragon Scale and Silver Dragon are types of Alocasia beginda. So this is my current biggest of my three Dragon Scale Silver Dragon plants. This is a large Dragon Scale that I got from, I think, my Green Spaces ID order. It suffered with some root rot and I had to do a bit of surgery on it. If you want to watch me struggle with that, I will link the video in the clickable eye so you can have a look at that. It's been work. I've worked really hard to keep this one alive and I'm so freaking proud that I have it. But it is a bit leggy, as you can see. This new leaf isn't quite as impressive as the previous one. This is my other Alocasia Dragon Scale. I've had this one for quite a while. I believe I got this in a swap. Like, I gave someone some bulbs and they gave me some bulbs back. And this one, again, isn't huge. I've had it for ages though, and I've grown it from bulbs, so it's taking its sweet time to grow into a bigger plant, which I'm fine with. I'm okay if it takes a while because I love it, and so I get to enjoy watching it grow slowly. But this one, again, I think this leaf right now is one of my favorite leaves in my collection. Like, just look at that. How freaking gorgeous is that leaf? And like the backs of these leaves as well, they have like red veination, which is kind of cool. It's like the blood in the dragon's veins. Anyways, I think they're cool. And then this is my Silver Dragon. It is very small. I got this as a baby plant probably a couple years ago. I've not given it the best life ever, but it's growing slowly, so I cannot complain, and I do really love this sort of more silvery coloration to it. Mine is quite small, and so it's not got that really stark silvery contrast, which a lot of them do, but it's still pretty freaking stunning. So I find the like sort of dragon alocasias a bit of medium maintenance. I definitely wouldn't suggest them to a beginner houseplant parent who's never had any alocasias before. Though they are absolutely stunning, they do require a little bit more upkeep than some things like the poly or even something outside of the alocasias altogether. Because those of us who have tried alocasias know they can be a little bit finicky and somewhat problematic when it comes to their growth. Right, let's get into the care of these beautiful creatures. Bright indirect light is ideal for your dragony alocasias. They really, that's what they prefer. They can handle a little bit of dappled sun, maybe early morning or late afternoon sun, because that is a lot less harsh than like middle of the day sun. So an east or west facing window would be really good for them. Any sort of like harsh, direct, hot sun will burn their leaves, and we don't want that. And not enough light, on the other hand, can make them grow a little bit leggy. Mine are a tiny bit leggy at the minute. I've had mine in my IKEA cabinet and they don't get the most light in there. For a while I was only putting the grow lights on for like 5 hours a day, but I've lately started putting them on more like 13 hours a day because this spot just doesn't get the most light. Like, the windows are a little bit recessed here, and though it's close to the windows, it just doesn't get much, especially in the summer when the sun is higher up. There's not really that much light going on here. Maybe in the winter when it's a bit lower down, it might get a little bit more light in the day, but I'm not gonna bank on it because winters here in the UK are dark and gray. Yay! So yeah, they're not getting the most light, mostly getting light through grow light at the minute, which is fine, but as you can see, it has made them a little bit leggy, which I'm okay with. I don't see a problem with that, but some people might. Also, it's important to remember, if you want a really nice, well-rounded plant, like that you could view it from all sides and it would look absolutely gorgeous, you should rotate your plant probably every time you water it. Rotate it like 90 degrees, and that will help it kind of grow evenly on all sides. I personally don't do that. All of my alocasias tend to be very one-sided, and I'm personally okay with that. I don't mind how that looks, especially since mine are living in the cabinet and there's kind of like a front to that. But if they were just living out, like in my room on a table, kind of in the middle of a room, I would probably rotate them to make sure that they're getting a bit more even sort of light. But that's up to you. But they do definitely grow to face the light for sure. Sort of regular, consistent watering is pretty important for your dragon alocasias. If you have yours in soil, I'd probably water when it's about 50% dry. They do like to stay a little bit moist. Obviously, they don't like sitting in a puddle of water if they're in soil. They don't like that. It's a fast track to root rot and will cause your plant to die. So don't water it too often, which will cause overwatering. They also don't like to dry out completely, so it's a bit of a balance with them in soil. That's why I actually keep all of mine in semi-hydro or pond. I find that this works really, really well for watering mine because it's a lot easier to keep them consistently moist. So this one I have in a water reservoir, just a cash pot with water at the bottom. And I have the same for my silver dragon. And then my other dragon scale I have in a proper Lechuza self-watering pot, which I personally prefer. I think they work a little bit better than these because they hold the plant a little bit higher up. I mean, I could sort of makeshift that, but I'm honestly too lazy. So they just sit in a water reservoir and it's fine. And as long as you're not letting them dry out completely, they'll be perfectly good. It's also important to note that no matter what substrate you're using, you're probably gonna be watering a lot more in spring and summer, and maybe even autumn, than you will in winter, because there's not gonna be as much light around. It'll probably be cooler temperatures, and so your plant will be growing a little bit slower, if not going completely dormant, which is totally normal and fine, especially in alocasias. It is pretty common. And so it's important to really have a look at your substrate, especially if you're using soil, and see if it needs water before you water it, because you don't want to be like giving water to a dormant plant over the winter. It's not going to work out very well. Underwatering, it can cause your plants to get crispy tips. Unfortunately, this one did dry out a little bit too much, and so I have removed several crispy tips from it, which I mean is fine. It's not the end of the world for me. I don't mind it that much. Of course, I'd prefer if my plant had beautiful, perfect leaves all of the time, but it's on me, and I had to cut off those crispy tips because they didn't look nice. Their ideal temperatures are between 13 and 27 degrees Celsius or 55 to 80 Fahrenheit. Pretty much if you're comfortable in your home, they'll be comfortable. Anything lower than that can force the plant into dormancy, and your plant can go into dormancy even with temperatures not that low, but that can like push them into it a lot faster. So just beware not to let them get too cold. I suppose in some parts of the world you might be able to summer these outside, but I honestly wouldn't suggest it. In the UK, I don't think we have the right climate for them to live happily outside. So personally, I wouldn't. They love a bit of humidity. They're from a tropical climate, and so they're used to high humidity in their like nature. Ideally something around 60 to 80% will be good for them. That's kind of why I keep mine in the cabinet, because the cabinet's almost always 60 to 80%. I could probably keep them outside in my home, but I feel like the humidity is just slightly too low. My humidity at home is like 55 to 60%. I've just got a very humid home. And so I probably wouldn't keep mine outside of the cabinet personally, without doing something like bunching a bunch of plants together. Grouping them creates extra humidity, putting it on a pebble tray or putting it near a humidifier. all of those are perfectly viable options. I just got this cabinet, so I use it. Another reason I really like the semi-hydro though is it kind of acts like a pebble tray because it's a reservoir of water, especially in the pots that are just cache pots with water at the bottom. They kind of act like a pebble tray in that the water can evaporate throughout time and the day and kind of create a little bit of a humidity bubble around it as well. So just another benefit of using semi-hydro or pond for your alocasias. It helps with humidity. You should mainly be fertilizing in the spring and summer months. That's when your plant is going to be going through the most growth and will need more like nutrients to make that happen. You should probably lower it down or stop completely in autumn and winter, and especially if your plant goes dormant, do not fertilize it at all because that's like feeding someone who's asleep and it's kind of useless and it can really cause issues with your plant. So avoid feeding if your plant is dormant. If your plant is still growing over the autumn and winter because you have it in nice conditions like your home or a greenhouse cabinet and it's still pushing out new growth, feel free to continue fertilizing because your plant is still using energy. But if it stops growing new leaves, probably stop. I personally fertilize with liquid gold leaf because the slow release fertilizer that was in this pond, it's gone. It's been over 6 months, so there's no more in this. And so I use liquid gold leaf at the right ratios for semi-hydro, and I'll use that like every 2 times or 3 times I water. Typically about once a month, but maybe a little bit more often in the summer months when it's like properly pushing out growth a bit faster. If you're using like sort of a general all-purpose fertilizer that's not specifically for houseplants, I would suggest probably diluting it to half strength because some fertilizers can be really intensely strong, and if it's in a confined space like this, especially if it's not got like the sort of drainage and circulation that the outside world does, it can burn the roots of your plant. So just be careful with using other fertilizers. And if you're in the UK, use liquid gold leaf because it's freaking awesome. So yeah, I'm not affiliated with them. I just really, really like their fertilizers. If you're gonna keep your Alocasia dragony plants in soil, I would recommend a very like chunky, well-draining mix. You don't want it to be too dense or anything that's just peat will be a little bit too moisture holding for your plant. So make sure you're using something with bark and perlite and stuff like that, maybe pumice, to make sure that the soil is nice and well draining. If I were to put these in soil, I would probably use Soil Ninja's Alocasia soil because it's like specially formulated for Alocasias, and so they like it. It's like the right environment for them. So if you're in the UK and you can get your hands on Soil Ninja, I definitely suggest that because it's really good. But if you only have all-purpose houseplant soil, definitely add some more chunk into it to make it a little bit more suitable for them. I personally use pon or semi-hydro for my dragony alocasias. I've said it loads in this video so far. There's many, many benefits to it, but I find that it's a little bit less maintenance and like intensity than soil. I don't need to worry as much about making sure I'm watering at the right time. As long as I don't let the water reservoir go dry or like fill it up too high, then it's fine. As long as it's staying in the middle, sort of there, it's absolutely fine. And especially with proper self-watering pots, they have a little indicator on them, which, I mean, I need to water this one now, but they have a little indicator on them that show you how much water is in there and whether or not you need to be adding more to give your plant more water. So I find it a lot easier to do that than to figure out whether my soil is dry enough, but that's just personal preference and I just like doing it that way. You should repot them when you notice that the roots are growing out the bottom of the pot, and whatever you do, make sure you have some sort of drainage holes, especially if you have soil. You want the water to be able to run through and not just sit at the bottom of the roots because it just doesn't work. And I know self-watering and pond is different and it's okay a little bit more if like your plant is sitting in water there because there's a better mix of air to water ratio, and also they tend to grow a bit more water-like roots in there than soil roots, so it is fine. It's a bit complicated. I'm not exactly sure the science of it, but it works, so it's fine. So the best way to propagate all alocasias actually is through their corms or bulbs. I do have an entire video showing you how I figured out how to do that. I will link it in the clickable eye and down below. So if you're curious about like growing them from bulbs, it's pretty simple. The best time to find bulbs is when you are repotting them. Have a look through their soil. You'll find something that looks like this. And if you use my preferred method of the shallow puddle, aka putting it in a small container that has a lid with a like very shallow puddle of water, it'll eventually sprout roots and hopefully grow like a leaf, and then you can pot it up into your medium of choice, which for me is almost always pond. So that is the easiest way to do it. You can't really propagate through stem or leaf cuttings with them in the same way, so I advise against that. Like, you can't just chop off a leaf and put it in some water and expect it to root like you can with some other plants. So don't do that, look for corms. Unfortunately, all alocasias, and definitely these sort of dragony alocasias, are toxic to humans and animals, pets. If ingested, they can cause massive irritation to your digestive system, and you don't want that. I've also heard they can cause like skin irritation with like contact, but I've personally never experienced that, and I tend to have a little bit more sensitive skin, so not too sure what's going on with that, but I have heard it, so if you are sensitive, beware, it's a possibility. So that is it. That is everything you need to know about how to take care of your Alocasia dragon scale or your Alocasia silver dragon. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplants you'd like me to talk about in the future, and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!